Hello and welcome to this workshop. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Year 6 writing. I'm Miss Neil, I'm the Year 6 teacher and also Head of English at Hartley Primary School. So I'm just going to be talking to you a little bit about Year 6 writing this evening and just a few bits and bobs about what you might be able to do at home to help your child. So I'm going to share screen and we'll go from there. So, just to start, we've got here how we teach writing at Hartley, how writing is assessed, the expectations for children's writing in Key Stage 2, and how you can support your child's writing at home. So they're the few things that we're going to be going through whilst you're watching this video. Just to start really with how we teach writing at Hartley, we do follow the Pathways to Write scheme. It's an absolutely fantastic resource. We follow it throughout the school and it has shown great progress that our children have made since we started using this about 12 to 18 months ago. They've won lots of national awards around the country, and it's just really inspiring texts for the children to be reading, to be exposed to. There are lots of different styles of text, so it's not always stories, it can be lots of non-chronological text, information books, all sorts of different things. They all contain really challenging vocabulary for that child and for that age group. They last about a half term, so we might do a poetry unit followed by then a fiction unit or a non-fiction unit, but all in all they last around about a half term. And throughout that half term it will be focusing on one genre in particular, but we'll do lots of different things to build up to that. So we might do, if we were doing, for example, narrative, we might do lots of descriptions, we might do setting descriptions, character descriptions, a bit of diary entry, a few diary entries and things like that, building up to a narrative or a story at the end of the unit. The children have really enjoyed them. We've had lots of great feedback on the books that we've been using, and it's just a bit more engaging for them, which is absolutely fantastic, and we've seen such good results. So yeah, that is the Pathways to Write scheme which we follow as a school. So I just wanted to go through with you quickly the expectations of writing in Year 6. Now it's split into several different areas. So this is taken from the national curriculum and what we have to teach the children and what they need to be able to do by the end of Year 6 to gain the expected standard. I'll go into that a little bit more in a moment about the different assessment levels. So in terms of transcription, so getting it down on the page, we've got that they need to use prefixes and suffixes, so that's part of their spellings that they're getting every week, that they spell some words with silent letters. Again, that's included in their spellings that we're sending home every week. To distinguish between homophones and other words, which are often confused. So yeah, we're covering all of those different things. It goes on to say about morphology, sorry, I can't even say it, and etymology. So understanding words basically and where words come from, so looking at root words and things like that. Dictionaries, using dictionaries, which we encourage all the time in all our lessons, making sure that we can get a dictionary out and check things. Use the first 3 or 4 letters of a word to check the spelling, so it might give them a clue to where they need to look into, how else could that be spelt. And then the final one, using a thesaurus. So just lots of different things that you'd expect us to be doing, and what you can support with at home a little bit there with the spellings. That's why spellings are so important every week that we're sending home, because they need to prove in their writing that they can do all these things and not just in a spelling test. This is the one that some of the children love, so handwriting presentation. So this is part of the national curriculum framework that they have to write legibly, fluently and with increasing speed by choosing which shape of letter to use when given choices and deciding whether or not to join specific letters, and then choosing the writing implement that is best suited for the task. So as you are aware, we started kinetic letters a couple of years ago, which was a joining programme to teach the children how to form their letters correctly and then how to join their letters correctly as well. That was aimed at the lower key stage 2 really and key stage 1. Those children that have joined us since, we are not insisting that they join in kinetic. We just need to see joined up handwriting in year 6, especially by the end of year 6. We had a big push on it last half term, and the children's handwriting has come on leaps and bounds. I don't know how many times today I go, are we joining? Are you making sure you're joining? So it is constant reminders, and they've got so much to think about, but that's why we need to do it and get the practice in so early in the year really, because they need to be proving that they can write joined up by the end of the year. And also it does speed a lot of the children up as soon as they're into the habit, hopefully then that it helps with spelling and it helps with the speed of their writing. So yeah, big push on handwriting in presentation in the first half term, and we're getting there, we're doing really, really well, and that's really the reasoning why we have to be able to prove that they can do that by the end of the year. Composition. So in our writing, we've got to prove that the children can compose fantastic pieces of writing. So there's a list there. I'm not going to read through it all for you. I'll leave it on the screen, and I'll also share this PowerPoint on the website so that you can look at it in a bit more detail afterwards if you'd like to. But all in all, the composition for year 6 children, the main purpose, the main objective is hitting the audience and purpose. So are they writing to the correct audience? So are they choosing the right words, the right formality for who they are writing for? And are they hitting the purpose? So if we're writing a persuasive leaflet, is it persuading us? And really that's simplistically what we're looking for composition. Obviously there's a lot more effort that goes into that, so it's choosing the right grammar, the right vocabulary to put into make sure that they are aiming it at the right audience and purpose. It's making sure that they're using the right presentational devices, so structural devices like bullet points, subheadings, things like that. Are they using those correctly? The correct tense. So if they're trying to, if they're telling us about something that happened in the past, making sure that they are staying in the past tense and using those different types of past tense correctly. And also that cohesion, that's a big focus that we're working on at the moment. Cohesion is just tying it all together, making sure it all links together. So using devices such as repetition, fronted adverbials, time conjunctions, just so their work all ties itself together. It doesn't become overly repetitive, but we know it flows nicely and there's a nice thread to their writing. So just in summary, really that was composition. Here we have the big one. So this is the one that we're really pushing at the moment. We're doing lots of different things to try and support the children through this. So it's the vocabulary, grammar and punctuation. And as you may be aware, in year 6, this is assessed in their writing, but in terms of this section as well, it's assessed in their SPAG test, spelling, punctuation and grammar test, which is one of their SATs in May, which as far as we are aware is going ahead like normal at the moment. So I've put the whole list really there. I've paraphrased it, but I've put the whole list on that is included in the national curriculum. Now this is the year 6 objectives. It is presumed that if they're working at the year 6 level, they're doing all of the things from the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 curriculum as well. So it's not just these things that they kind of need to tick off and do, it's making sure they've got all of the building blocks to get to this stage. There may be some things on there that you're not familiar with. It's always a learning curve for teachers coming up to year 6, because we just do these things naturally in everyday language and don't really know what the names of everything are. So when teachers move around the school in particular, you know, it's making sure that, oh yeah, that's what that is, that's what that is. So please don't be concerned if some of the terminology here doesn't seem, you know, doesn't seem that you use every day. So I have also found a really good terminology booklet that I've shared on the website as well, so that you can look any of these things up if you're a bit unsure. I'm sure the children should be able to tell you, so let's hope they will. There's things like the subjunctive form on there. Now we only cover that in year 6. It's a tricky thing to cover, it's a tricky thing to understand, but they have to show that they can use a subjunctive form in their writing. Things like expanded noun phrases, they should have been doing much lower down in the school. So that's become part of everyday language, and they should be doing that all of the time anyway. Modal verbs and adverbs, hopefully you're familiar with that because it's been coming home as homework quite often. Relative clauses is also another big push that we've had this last half term and coming into this half term, because we've got to prove that we can do those correctly and in the right kind of places. We've also got there the punctuation side. There's a lot there for them to try and do. They don't have to put it in every piece. All of these things they don't have to put in every piece of writing. It's what's appropriate for that piece of writing. We wouldn't be expecting in the middle of a story for them to start putting bullet pointed lists in, because that actually isn't appropriate. Therefore they wouldn't be hitting the audience and purpose part that we covered earlier on. So it's just over the course of the year, especially from spring term, that they are showing that they can do these things in their writing, whether that be in their English book, in their science book, that they're trying to use some of these things all of the time. Okay, so how is it all assessed? Basically, as I said, year 6 do SATs tests. However, writing luckily is not part of that. So they stopped the writing test many years ago, and instead now it's teacher assessment. So at the end of May, beginning of June, we sit down and we, as a team in Upper Key Stage 2 and SLT, we will do a final assessment of the children's writing. We're continually assessing them throughout the year. And as part of the units that we're teaching, they will do kind of a final piece as part of that unit to show really and show off everything that they've learned. That's what we say to the children, show off all the things that you can now do. And so this teacher assessment all comes together at the end of the spring term, and we will be looking then at what they can do, what is evident in their writing across a range of books. So it doesn't just have to be their English book, it can be, we can pull evidence from their science books and all sorts of different places. So we have to follow a stringent assessment format, that we make sure that the children are using it consistently and appropriately, and then we will it's a grading system, and those grades are there at the bottom, bullet point for you there, working towards expected and greater depth standard. So your child at the end of year 6 will get one of those criteria, so they'll be working towards the year 6 standard, at the expected year 6 standard, and at the greater depth standard in year 6. So it's those 3 criteria that you'll see at the end of the year. And obviously we'd love all the children to be at expected or greater depth, because that's where the government says that a year 6 child should be. Okay, so that year expected is where they should be at the end of the year. We know that writing isn't everybody's cup of tea. We know that some children really find it tricky, that it's really difficult to do all of those things from the previous few bullet points. It's really difficult to put all of those in your writing all of the time and do it consistently. So as long as the children have worked their hardest, we cannot ask for more from them. So the goal is always to get to expected, but we know very much that that is not everybody's goal. For some people it is, you know, we are working just to make them better writers and prepare them as well as we possibly can for moving on next year. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples really of what it looks like. So on the screen now, apologies for the handwriting. This is one taken from the exemplification materials that the government provide. This is a working towards example. Now, I'm not going to read it all out. I'll leave it there for you to have a little look at. But it is really, from a teacher's perspective, it's a really solid piece of writing. There's some really good stuff in there. So all the way through, they're using quite good language. Most of it makes sense. They're trying to use lots of different punctuation. And yeah, they've really worked hard on it. This is a piece of setting description working towards a narrative that they've written here. And I'm sure you can see that they've got some really, really good things going on. If you look at the second paragraph, things like the red mountain bleeding down like syrup on pancakes. They've tried really hard there to use a simile to up-level their work. But from our point of view, we'd be like, well, actually, is that an appropriate simile there? So can you compare a red mountain bleeding down like syrup on pancakes, or would there be a better way to compare it? So when you're getting to this stage, it is being quite nitpicky on the different elements of the writing. And it wasn't just judged on this piece of writing, there were other pieces as well. But it was deemed that this child was working towards the Year 6 standard. I will put some of the materials online so that you can read through these and see the different criteria if you're interested, just so that you can, if you want to know, well, why did they get that? Why did they not get that? You can look into that a little bit further. Here on the screen is an expected writer. So you can see initially that they have far more control over their writing. So right from the beginning, they start with a really lovely opener deep in the middle of the dark, gloomy jungle. I found myself stranded, and the language that they're using there is a step up from the previous piece. So the vocabulary that they're using is much, much better. They've got some really nice opening clauses, so such as deep in the middle. They've got staring at Johnny's petrified expression. Again, a really lovely opener to get us going. As we ran, another lovely opener, and they're punctuating those correctly as well the majority of the time. This student as well, you can see in the second paragraph, has more control over the way they're using their grammar. So I was no longer by his side, I was alone, using a powerful short sentence there to add suspense to the writing. So they've got far more control over what they're doing, and they're putting that, they're applying all of those things into their writing more effectively than the previous piece of work. The reason why this person didn't get any higher was really because parts of it are quite repetitive. If you look at the top paragraph, you can see there it says the smell, the sound. It's quite straightforward, it's quite repetitive. They're not trying to go about things in a different way. We always say in Year 6, you try to show, not tell. So instead of saying the smell or the sound, can you describe it without actually having to say that? So we've been working on that this half term, and how we can make our writing a little bit more exciting for the reader. Also, they didn't have all of the extra additional features that you need in for greater depth writing, for working above age-related expectations, which we'll have a little look at next. But a really, really lovely piece of writing that has taken a lot of hard work and has got an awful lot of the grammar and vocabulary features that we were looking at earlier. Okay, so I remember having a look at this greater depth story when I went on a training, a moderation training course last year, and thinking, oh my goodness, it's fantastic. And I came back and shared it with the Year 6 class actually, and they loved it as well. So this is a Year 6 pupil who's been asked to write a short story, and this is what they've come up with. If you can, I would have a read of this at some point. It's hard, I know, with me talking over the top as well, but it is an absolutely fantastic story, and they have humour, they have controlled it so well. You can see by their use of paragraphing that they know what they're doing. As you can see, this has been typed up. Now, part of the curriculum is that you have a draft, you edit it, and then you can have a second draft, so you can have another go. And so this person has drafted it beforehand, and this is their final piece that they're doing. And we do that in class all of the time. So we'll be drafting something, then we'll go back and green pen it, and we'll have another go. In our stories that we're going to be writing in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a very, very similar process, so the children get that kind of routine of becoming an author and what to do. from the first paragraph here, you can see that this child is a gifted writer. The language that they're using, the way in which their sentences are constructed, and the punctuation that they're using as well. So the gloomy silhouette suddenly disappeared as the crescent moon was released from its prison. So straight away, they're gripping the reader with that description, and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And as you read it, it's building up all of this suspense and tension. You're looking at this assassin. Oh, who's this assassin going to be? And then actually at the end, as you can, if you scan down to the bottom, it says a dead rat lay on the cobbled street, the mud gradually oozing over the dry skin. With a sense of glee, the barn owl flew triumphantly back to its lookout, the rat dangling from its claws as he readied for the feast ahead. So it was actually all about a barn owl the whole time. And I mean, the children, some of them, when we looked at it last year in particular, they were amazed. They actually thought it was going to be something really, really horrible, and it turned out to be a barn owl. And it's just very, very cleverly written. Everything, you know, pretty much all of the punctuation is correct. They've got lots of higher level punctuation in. They've used loads and loads of different clause structures, so it doesn't become repetitive. And as you can tell from reading and glancing through, it's extremely well executed. So that is why it deserves the greater depth standard at Year 6. But it is hard to get. Greater depth at Year 6 is really, really tricky, and you do need to be, you know, a very talented writer to be able to get to that greater depth standard. So the main bits really, now that I've talked you through a little bit of that, is how to help your children at home. So the big push that we're having at the moment is on reading. As you can tell from the writing that we've just looked at, vocabulary is such a massive part of Year 6 writing. And we have noticed that that's one thing that we're struggling with in class when we come to brainstorm ideas and things like that. The vocabulary isn't quite where we'd like it to be. So we're having a really big push on reading. Sitting in my classroom at the moment, I've got an awful lot of books that are ready to roll out. We're just currently putting stickers and stamping them all so the children can have them. So we've invested in an awful lot of books so that children can bring those home and read them. And I know a lot of you have been having a go on Bug Club as well at home with your children, which some children are loving, and I know for some it's not the ideal thing, which is why we wanted to balance it with a new brand new set of lovely reading books so that they can have a bit of both. Spellings, so spellings is really important, making sure that all those spelling patterns that we're learning we can show all the time in our writing, that we don't just get them right in a spelling test, that we actually try really hard in our writing as well. Our handwriting, some of them are doing amazing well with their handwriting. It's just a really big push to get joining now, so making sure that we're all joining as much as possible. The different homework activities, so we sent an email a couple of weeks ago, I think it was now, about homework activities, and that we're going to up kind of the vocabulary work and the writing homework. And really that is just to get that discussion going at home, talking about words, talking about vocabulary, expanding that as much as we can, so that they'll then come and say, oh, Miss Neil, I've learnt this word, can I use it in my writing? And it's lovely when they do that, and we're really doing a big push in school with that as well, just expanding those vocabularies as much as we can. Yeah, we'll be doing, if you can help with any of those activities at home, that'd be fantastic. Revision of any previous grammar and punctuation. So we've just been through the Year 6 things today and the Year 6 expectations. There are a few gaps due to COVID, due to moving schools, whatever situation your child might have been in, and also having not written in school for a large amount of last year, they do get out of the habit of things, so it's playing catch up a little bit, revising the old grammar and the old punctuation to make sure they can remember it. Real life opportunities to write are really important, and the children always love it when we do something like that in class. So if there's any opportunity that you find at home, either to write emails, diaries, postcards, anything at all, even though I know it's a drag sometimes and like pulling teeth, it would be absolutely fantastic to have your support in just doing a little bit of additional writing. And then the final one is that discussion before writing. So whether that be homework, whether it be something they're doing independently at home, if you can have that discussion with them before writing, that's going to help their writing so much. We always support a lot of talk before writing. If you can say it, then you can write it. If the children are finding it hard to articulate what they're trying to say, they're going to really struggle to write it down. So we really try to do quite a lot of spoken language within our English lessons every day, a lot of chatting time, a lot of planning time together before we write it down. And the more of that we can do, the better. So there's that list at the end again, because those are the things that we're really working hard on. Again, as I said earlier, I will share this on the class website, the school website, and the class pages, sorry, so that you can access this and have another look. But they're all the bits that we're trying to cover to get into our writing. Lots of those we have covered so far this year. Lots of them we haven't got onto yet, because we want to make sure they're secure on what we have taught them before we move on. So yeah, those are the different parts that will be featured in our writing, but also in the SPAG test as well at the end of the year. And that just brings me on really to the SATS information evening. So in the spring term, I'm sure it will be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something, but we will be holding a SATS information evening. SATS are in May, and they're the assessments that we have to do with the children. It's all a bit up in the air. The government at the moment have said they're going ahead and that they're going to happen. There's lots of schools saying that they shouldn't be. So we shall see nearer the time what the decision is made on those, but we're planning to go ahead with them as usual. So we will be holding an information evening on that in the spring term, just to update you on everything that we know that is going on in May, and all of the expectations and things that may or may not have changed this year due to all the different things that are going on. So that's in the spring term, but in the meantime, if you could please have a go at reading some of those books that the children hopefully will really enjoy and bringing home, and also support as much as possible. We realise everything's manic at the moment and that lives are very busy, especially with working from home and things. But if any support that you can give with homework and checking through homework and things like that before it comes in, we really do appreciate. And we are here if you need any kind of advice on your child in particular, what you can help them with. Please just drop us an email at admin and we'll try as much as possible to get back to you as soon as we really can. So yeah, thank you very much for your support in advance and for everything that you've supported with us so far. There's just some good websites that I've popped on the last slide here. Again, I'll put all of this information on as well. Love Reading for Kids is an absolutely fantastic website that updates you on all the new releases of books, and it's got all of the age parts on there, so what's appropriate for what age group, which is really tricky when you get to year 6, not kind of breaking into those teenage style books. The Literacy Shed, if you want to do any extra English or writing at home, that's great for different ways of writing. Oak Academy is useful for lots of different things. Some of the children find it a little bit tedious sometimes, but it's good for looking at different grammar and vocabulary. BBC Bite Size is always a good place to head to if they're struggling with anything in particular with vocabulary or grammar. And I'm going to pop the Twinkle guide, which is the picture on the right hand side of the screen there. There's a Twinkle guide for parents on grammar, punctuation and vocabulary, in case you're unsure of any of the terminology that might have cropped up today or in the next few months. So we'll put that on our class web page as well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Any questions, please get in touch. The Upper Key Stage 2 team, we're all here if you need to email any of us about a specific query about your child, or just in writing across the board. So please get in touch if we can help in any way, shape or form. But thank you very much for watching.